If you want to become a very robust creative, very strong in critical thinking, I think you should go study architecture. At that moment, I found my purpose as a person who is very passionate about solving problems because it just gives me joy. My dad would always tell us that you either do it well or you don't do it at all. And I discovered that my journey through art, design and all of that was because I was passionate about solving problems, be obsessed with problems.
Was there an insight that you had that made you feel Dropp needs to exist?
I want to make growth easy for good businesses. And the starting point is education. You need access to information and you need to be equipped for whatever thing you're doing. A lot of people that are mentors ask what will matter to you in the next 10 years, 5 years, or the next 2 years. With my experience across different nations in Africa, I discovered that we are connected by stories.
And then now to Nbari Kingdom.
Again, impact. So the concept of Nbari is, what if there won't be barriers in terms of where you are, or you just belong to one nation, which is Nbari. I believe that the best solutions are top from the place of point is, as African, I think there's a lot of work we need to do in
Welcome to the podcast, Tunde.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, more like a full, should I say maybe almost full circle moment, right? I remember 2018 when I attended one of your classes, campus then in Ife. Yeah, I always try to maximize the breaks or long breaks then before going on any maybe interesting training that is ongoing. I'll just try, and then I attended it. Yeah, and it has been very, very impactful. Learned after effect, and then we did this assignment or not assignment for the class project. Yeah, for the class. Yeah, really, really cool stuff. And I've gone on to do a lot of motion stuffs. Yeah, right. And that's one of your expressions of impacting. We'll talk about it in the podcast. But let's take you back to the early beginning. Mm-hmm. When was your first interaction with anything design? How did this start? Maybe before you even decided to study architecture in school.
Yeah, I think as far as I can remember, since I was in primary school, I've always been a very artistic person. I remember I used to have drawing books and watercolors. So I would make paintings and I would draw. Primary school, actually, right? One of the things I can very much remember is when, when your dad says, okay, when you come first or second or third in class, ask for a gift. What I used to ask from my dad was a cardboard and watercolor. I used to get excited, just drawing, making paintings. So I think everything started that time. And I think it's also a family thing, right? My dad is very artistic. My sisters, everybody draws and everybody paints. I think the only person that doesn't do anything art in my house is my mom. So she's like the very foreign person in the house. So, when I was in secondary school, I was also very artistic. But then things switched a little for me in secondary school because I discovered that beyond art, I'm also very much interested in science. I wanted to be able to solve problems. Interestingly, I was sort of the best student in science, and I was also taking fine arts. I was the best student in fine arts, and I was the best student in physics. For that,
what an interesting combination.
Yeah. So at that point, I thought about it, and I felt what do I really want to do, really? Because if I'd gone ahead and studied engineering, that would be science and art.
Losing your heart.
If I'd gone ahead and studied arts, that would be too much art and less of science. And then I remember my dad had a friend that time who was in the architecture department of the school I went to. So, and she suggested that, okay, this guy can study architecture. So I began researching. This was secondary school. I said, okay, architecture is a very good blend of science and art. So I'll study architecture. And that's another story on its own when I was in architecture school. Yeah. But that was how the journey started for me. Art, everything started with art. But design came basically when I was in school of architecture because architecture...
That's in OAU, right?
Yeah, OAU.
What year? From part 1 straight or part 2?
No, you want to make me look old. Part 1 was 2011-12, right?
I think I was doing pretty good by that time.
Yeah, I think 2011-2012, right? That was part 1. So in the School of Architecture, they will teach you almost everything. So they will teach you... In fact, they will start with art. So there was freehand drawing. And so we we took courses in fine arts. We took courses in mathematics department, different departments, because, like I said, architecture is a mix of science and art. But one thing struck me, which was problem solving, because architecture primarily is about solving shelter problems. And I think at that moment, I found my purpose as a person who is very passionate about solving problems, because it just gives me joy. Then I discovered that my journey through arts, design, and all of that was because I was passionate about solving problems. It's just like a means to an end. The end for me really is to be able to solve problems.
It's different.
I didn't mention this because when I was in secondary school, I knew I was going to study architecture, like I said. So, when you're done with secondary school and then you're waiting to go to university, I think it's just a few months. I wanted to just learn something, just go somewhere and do something. So I decided to learn something related to architecture. So I went and learned Revit architecture. But when I got to that center, they told me that for me to be able to learn architectural graphics, I need to know what graphics is. So they started with CorelDRAW. They started with Photoshop. We even did After Effects. We did 3DX Max. So, I went through the normal graphic design program, right? And I was like, okay, I can actually design. So in part one, when, in architecture, when we are designing stuff, mine is always very unique because, I have this background of graphics and all of that.
Programs
so that was how core graphic design started for me in part one, because of the knowledge I had in trying to learn architecture tools, and I stumbled into,
interesting. Like, I would love to know what your upbringing was like, right? You had mentioned there was art in the family, your dad, your siblings were doing art, but you still strike me as someone that already has a good or has high agency even from that point in time. You had heard about architecture, even right from secondary school. Usually in secondary school, a lot of us don't, or a lot of people, you don't even know what you want. Yeah, you're just like, let me just go to class and finishing again. You decided, or maybe through family also, you decided to go and learn again in a proper structure center. So what was it like? Was it, how did you learn to pursue things you wanted? Was it still from your parents? And even the art also, was your dad or your siblings, were you all just doing it for fun? Or was anybody doing it professionally, maybe as an artist?
So I think I will admit that I am from a very interesting family. And I think I need to also thank my parents for giving us that flexibility of expression. So my dad and my mom, they're kind of persons that just do whatever thing you want to do. The best thing they will do for you is to advise you and guide you. First, my dad is a lecturer, right? He's a professor right now. And my mom was a teacher before she retired. So you can imagine that blend of two teachers, training you. So they're very much exposed when it comes to all of that, right? And I was also very lucky. I went to a university secondary school. So we were very much exposed at the very beginning. I remember sometimes maybe during breaks or when I go to my dad's office or my mom's, because my mom was also the headmistress of the same school, the nursery school, the primary school of that university. So we had access to classes, departments. So we were very much exposed as to, okay, this is, architecture department, this is this faculty. So there was that exposure.
Even right from that early.
Yeah, right, So I think that exposed my mind, right? And as regards whether anybody was, in terms of art, anybody was practicing, no. So another interesting thing is, in the Yoruba culture, there's something we call family house in your hometowns, right? And the family houses would have names based on history, based on profession and all of that. Where I'm from, our family house is called Ile Gbenogbeno, which is traditional carvers. These are people that make sculptures, artistic sculptures. So you can see that it's a family thing. My dad will remind us of when he was very, very young, with his grandfather that he would make, erebeji, they call it erebeji, statues, figurines for twin, right? I think they use it for some spiritual whatever thing, and he would do it for like business. So, some people will come and say, can you make this for us? And he will make some money and all of that. So I think it's in the family, but nobody, studied it professionally. Everybody just doing it for fun. Yeah. I think I'm the only person that actually studied something that is very close to design in the family. And okay, maybe my sister too. My sister studied urban and regional planning. I think it
has a bit of design also.
Yeah, but I have a sister that studied law. I have another that studied public health, and they all draw. They all make art. Till now, actively, they have Instagram pages, illustrations,
stuff. That's a very, very interesting upbringing, which I think really influenced your quality of work, right? I've started seeing your work from while we're in OAU. You could tell how, especially with your illustrations, the lines, the shapes, you could just tell. I think you did some branding then for maybe Solar Cat earlier on, Treehouse. Their posters, you can see. And so I want to know, so your architecture work, did it also influenced, would you say it has your journey through architecture in school, fine arts, the exposure then, did it influence your quality of work, or does it influence your quality of work in terms of design, strategy, or just building stuff now?
Yeah. So I think that there are two things, right? There's work and there's also quality. And I think first, quality started for me at home because my dad is a very excellent person, right? My dad would always tell us that you either do it well or you don't do it at all. So attention to detail, quality, excellence, I think started for me at home. But beyond that, School of Architecture is very, very interesting, in which I would always suggest that if you want to become a very robust creative, and that is very strong in critical thinking, no matter anything you want to do, I think you should go study architecture. Now, the reason is because...
Will you pick architecture over fine art?
Yes, I will. You know why? Because there's a part of architecture that is very critical that I think is needed to be able to solve problems and also to be able to do it well with excellence. Right. Because in architecture, you are not solving problems, but you have people's lives in your hands. So, for example, if you design a structure, for example, and it collapses, there will be loss of life, there will be loss of property and all of that. So it means that every detail actually matters. And that's what architecture will teach you. Architecture will tell you that this might be the most tiniest or the tiniest part of this element, but it is as important as the biggest part of this element. And I think those are some of the things that drove me to really pursuing excellence, right? So I would say for me, quality started at home, and also studying architecture reinforces that for me, right?
Interesting. Right from school also, I said, I was looking at my certificates, After Effects from campus, right? From school, you've started mentoring, you started teaching, and evolving out of school now to founding Nbari Kingdom. So I would love to know, why do you just want to impact? Where did it come from? Have you just always been very big on mentorship, on impacting, or in teaching or training?
Yeah. So first, let me confess, I think, sometimes when I think about, in retrospect, when I think about some of these things, I wonder what actually inspired me
to start.
Right? I feel like a lot of times I'm on autopilot. Some things I do, I just do them. I don't know. Now thinking about mentorship when I was in school, I was trying to figure out my life too, just like every other person. And I was mentoring some other students, somewhere my junior, somewhere my senior. I didn't know what I was thinking, but I think it was just the energy, the drive in me to be able to impact. And for me, impacting lives, I don't know. I think it was just something that's been inbuilt right from the beginning. I don't know when, but I've always been passionate about impacting lives. I have a philosophy about greatness. I believe that the true greatness of a person is your ability to make others great. So the measure of my greatness is not based on what I can do literally, is basically how I can make others great. And what even makes that more interesting for me is when I make others great, they are now making other people great. You know, that chain effect. That chain effect, right? So I mean, to be very honest, I don't know how it started, but I've always been very passionate about impacting.
And then now to Nbari Kingdom.
Yeah, I mean, again, impact, right? When we started campus in Ife, it was just, passionate designers, that wanted to impact other designers or people that wanted to become designers. I just spoke to a few friends, and Toji, Loto, Scotty, Mary, and they were very much interested. I mean, let's do this. And it also came at a time when, I told you that I've started designing before Ife. So sometimes when people see my designs, I used to design for architecture department, and architecture was one of the biggest departments at that time where we have events, bonfire, and all of that. So people question and say, what did this design? Was this guy that did it? So people wanted to learn design from me. A lot of people wanted to learn design. So I thought, okay, what if I bring everybody on campus together and just treat them? Oh, I can't do that alone. What if I create a system to be able to do that? Okay, let me call other people and let's create like a structure and all of that. And then, I mean, it worked. But campus existed until some few years ago because we also expanded to some other universities.
Yeah, I saw that.
Futa, we had people in Futa, we had people from Lautech and all of those places. But when I see the success of campus, I'm always very excited. When I hear news, you were also a product of campus, right? And that gives me a lot of joy, more than food. You're right. And I thought about it. That was 2023 November, December. I went for an event with a friend. I think Chiji was in that event, and one of the campus students walked up to me, and he was just sharing ideas of, okay, I did campus. Obviously, he didn't meet me in school. I think people we've trained him. And he was so excited and he was sharing ideas. And I thought, like, why did I stop this? Right? Or why can't I continue this? Because this gives me joy. Then I said, okay, I'm going to have a campus, but not at the university level. Now at the global level, Africa, basically. And then Nbari came to life. Right. So it was just me trying to scale the excellence that we started with campus.
And then
with Nbari, yes.
Outside. So interesting. Talking about top people that attended campus and have gone on to do really cool stuff. Before we started recording, like we were mentioning names of people that left, both our tutors then and we that were taught. So we've gone on to really do
amazing
really cool stuff, right? You can mention names after, which like something I know that you'll be very proud of. So now to Nbari Kingdom. Nbari is also very big on community, creatives coming together, making sure that we are driving excellence collectively, right? Why Kingdom? And also the people that will attend Nbari Kingdom, which kind of work do you think that they'll go on to go and do after?
Yeah, so your question is why the kingdom?
Yes, and then people that come to Nbari Kingdom, once they are done, which kind of work do you think they'll go on to also go and do?
So I think it's evident already, right? We've done this before with campus, right? Obviously, we can do way bigger now. First, let me start with your last question. People that we've produced at Nbari, they're doing amazing, right? But for me, my mission for them is to be able to become great. And like I said, greatness is not only in what you can do alone. is what you can impact in other people.
Other people.
Right? Because I believe that as humans, right? I mean, we live for others. We are social animals, right? If I live for myself alone, if all I needed was the money I needed for myself, I don't need to work too hard, to be very honest. I just need a small house, good car, and I'm okay.
Food.
Right? But when you think about the generation, then you need to work harder. So when I think about the generation of creatives in Africa, the effects that we want can only be achieved through a chain reaction, which means that there needs to be a source, and that source should empower people enough such that you can spread. I see it as a gospel, right? The gospel of the Christ, right? Where there are 12 disciples, right? All Jesus needed was with 12 disciples, and everything, spread from that.
Went on to
the same approach about the gospel of creativity in Africa, as I will call it. So that's to your second question.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of them are doing amazing. We started last year. A lot of them are professionals. They're practicing what they learned. They're doing super amazing. We just finished that cohort. I'm super proud of them. When I see their projects, I'm just so happy. I mean, we'll be rolling out their project very soon, and I think everybody should go check them out. They're solving real life issues, right? We make them go through a project, and for the project, you are supposed to pick a real life issue and solve it, right? Some of them are already implementing some of the projects. Some are still abstract, but the concept for us is we need to be able to solve real life problems, right? And that's one of the things we teach. So they're doing amazing. To your first question, why Kingdom? My experience over the years, one decade, right? I discovered that the success of every community or every society is in the strength of the community, right? You think about it. When we're in Ife, right, for example, we had something called sort of like the campus community, right? And what that does for you as a creative is, first, community makes people feel safe. It's sort of like a ground for growth and expression. And similar thing we wanted to create with Nbari. Now, I think there's a bit of me. No, I don't think. There is a bit of me in Nbari. I'm very Pan-African. I'm very, very, maybe you would have also seen that when we're in Ife. I'm super passionate about everything Africa. I believe that Africa has so much potential, but there's sort of like a discrimination against everything Africa. We think it's black. We think it's evil.
Not so good.
We think it's not so good. It's not excellent. It's low quality, and everything Western, everything foreign is way better. I'm against that. I've seen Africans do excellent work. I've seen Africans, look at pyramids, for example, right? The technology behind pyramid is still in question, right? People still wonder what kind of civilization, gave birth to that kind of technology, that kind of structures. That shows you that in Africa, there's a lot of excellence that we've not tapped, and we're not speaking about it. So for me, for every venture I try to do, I try to speak for Africa. So which is why you would see some of the nomenclature in Nbari, for example, we call
chief
it
priest.
Yeah, I called myself the chief priest, right? We have the oracle, we have the Agoges. Agoge is the sub-community for women, women in creativity. We have what else? Also, it's really, we are building it like a nation. We've called it the Creative Digital Nation. So we've called it the Kingdom, Nbari Kingdom, and we called members of the kingdom citizens, right? And we actually have a passport. So as a member of the kingdom,
your passport.
As a citizen, you have a passport, right? So we're building that nomenclature in an interesting way to fit the African system. But the core of it for us is community, a strong community.
Hello, sorry for the break. I know you're enjoying the episode. Please, if you haven't subscribed, please just hit the subscribe button, click the like button, and also leave a comment. Share to friends and family. It goes a long way to help the channel. You can get right back into the video.
And for Nbari, what we are trying to do is, with my experience across different nations in Africa, I discovered that we are connected by stories.
Wow.
We are the same practically. We are almost the same. Go to anywhere in Africa. You get to somewhere in Nairobi, for example, you would think you're in Lagos. You get to somewhere in Ghana now, you think you are in Ijebu. Since our politicians, they are the same. The way, the structure of family, all those is the same across. But there's also the vision when it comes to starting things. For example, people in Kenya, for example, a lot of creatives in Kenya, they look up to a lot of creatives in Nigeria because of how advanced and how, a lot of work we've done here. So the concept of Nbari is, what if there won't be barriers in terms of where you are, but you just belong to one nation, which is Nbari. So whether you're in South Africa, whether you're in Kenya, whether you're in Ghana, you just need to be a citizen of a country. And that gives you access to everything you need in one place. Mm. And what that means is that you as a creative in Nigeria and me as a creative in Nairobi, you don't lack anything.
Yeah. Collaboration becomes easier.
It becomes very easy, right? The information you have access to is the same information I have access to. And what that is doing is that we are now standardizing what we call excellence in the creative industry across Africa. And we're trying to reduce that gap across the countries. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Those are like really, really beautiful explains that you're up to with Nbari. And that's also why even we started this podcast also, so that we can tell a lot of these stories that they are possible. You're doing great stuff. And then people that will get to watch or listen would also get inspired that they can continue to do cool and amazing stuff also.
Yeah.
African creatives, you mentioned how in the minds of a lot of people, they just assume that what is coming from us is not excellent.
Yeah.
It's not excellent. It's not good enough. They always want to price us down or not even appreciate our craft. So, and to a large extent too, there are a lot of creatives that are starting to think that this is the norm. But then with Nbari, you're trying to break that mindset. Are there other mindset change that you would want to see take place in the minds of creatives, for example, apart from the cool work you're doing? What are the other things that for us to really play at a global stage, for our work to be more appreciated, for us to really become sought after really globally? What are other things that you think that we as individual creatives or people generally should start doing, or what mindset change should they even have?
Yeah. So I think for us at Nbari, we've divided it into 4 pillars, which I've called the Nbari pillars, right? The first is education, because I believe that education gives you access to anything you want. You need that level of exposure in any field, right? And for me, education is beyond just learning tools. And when we say creative, we are not talking about designers. We're saying creatives, right? When you consider yourself as a creative, then Nbari is for you. And the starting point is education. You need access to information, and you need to be equipped for whatever thing you're doing. Because in as much as, a lot of Africans are excellent at what they've done. I've also seen Africans, struggle with good works, right? And it's a general problem, right? If you don't have access to the level of education that is needed for anything, you struggle with that. So the first is education. And we're solving for that already at Nbari. So the second is talent, because we understand that now you're educated, you're good at what you do. So where's the market? Opportunities, right? A lot of us, when we started, right, we were on Top Tower, right? We're designing on Top Tower. Some were designing on, what other places? Upwork,
Fiverr,
and all of that, right? But those are global platforms, not specifically for Africans, right? And what that does is a lot of time, and I've seen that play out a lot of times, because you're in Africa and they know you're in Africa, they begin to undervalue your work. I mean, they see the value, but they want to underpay for the work you're doing because they believe that, I mean, you're in Africa. I mean, your spending power is low and all of that. So they begin to. So what the equivalent of what they will pay times 3 or 4
For
a
someone
particular thing,
over there.
they want to pay lesser here, right? So for us, we are also now building an ecosystem to connect talent to opportunities. I started with education, the talent, connecting you to opportunities. And so that's the second pillar, right? The third pillar is investment. Now, because we understand now you are equipped, now you have opportunities, but not everybody really want to, work on a platform or work for. Some people have ideas and they want to build their ideas.
Create something.
And for me as an entrepreneur, right, I think entrepreneurship is the foundation of civilization and growth for every society. These are people that think about solving problems in the society. They are the foundation of civilization, basically, right? And there are a lot of creative people that have ideas, right? I've seen a lot of fantastic creative ideas. Now, one of the things we are doing is, can we be a source of investment? And we do that in 2 ways. The first is funds. Support you with funds to get started. The second is we also support you in kind. So a part of Nbari becomes like a venture studio, which means that for your idea, if you think your idea, fits our thesis, what we then do is we get people in-house to work on it for you. So everything that you need, from the branding to the strategy, we then pick it up. So we become a part of it. And what do we get in return? Some ownership of the business. And what we're building with that is Nbari then becomes, takes a bit of fabric from all these ideas that is going into the society. I've seen a very fantastic idea. For example, there is a lady that does children clothing, and it's so flexible. I think you can always switch. So there are 2 fabric. There's the inner fabric, there's the outer fabric, and you can always switch
both sides.
From both sides, right? And I think the amazing part of it for me was the fact that she was able to justify that children, especially very early stage, they grow very fast.
Yeah.
I don't know, the way she's designed the stuff can only expand with the children, such that you don't need to quickly buy new clothes for them. I think that's amazing, right? That's out of Africa. So ideas like that. So the third pillar, like I said, is investment. Now the fourth is community. Like I said, community is very big to us. And the community is a safe place. We want creatives to be able to have conversations. For example, one of the things we do at Nbari is we have something called the amphitheater. It's a monthly conversation session where all the creatives in our community will gather in a space, and then we just have very vulnerable conversations. So you talk about pricing, this is not about lecture. It's not about someone is in front of you and having, teaching you anything. It is also learning from each other, right? So community. Yeah.
So interesting. Yeah, community is like very, very powerful. I know that you are very hands-on. You've been doing design. I know now you've had to like lead a lot of teams. You have a lot of people doing design also for you. Since like you're like founding a lot of businesses and all of that, right? But I still know that you are very hands-on with design. You've been a very fantastic designer. You also like led the rebrand for Paga.
Yes, recently.
Yeah, recently. So I also love to know, how does your mind work? How do you get your ideas? How do you create your illustrations? There are like a lot of maybe young designers that would get to watch this episode that also want to hone their craft to become as excellent as you. many of them will see your work. The branding from Nbari, which I know would have a lot of your input also, look very fantastic. So for someone that wants to move their craft from where they are to become very excellent like you, even much more, what should they do?
So, interesting thing is, for the past few years, I don't see myself as a designer, core designer, right? I think I've evolved beyond just design. I think design now is a tool for me, not who I am as a person.
Good.
The fact that sometimes you sing to communicate something, or you write to communicate something, doesn't mean you're a writer. It's a professional writer. Well, it's an activity that is a part of a bigger deal. So right now, I don't consider myself as a designer, right? I think I consider myself more as a strategist, because what I do mostly is thinking. And you're really thinking about direction, especially around solving problems. But your question about what's my advice for people that I think for me is first getting your priorities right as a designer. For me, I am always of the school of thought that design is first functional before aesthetics. And what that means is that when you're designing, as a designer, you're trying to solve problems through any means. If you're a graphic designer, through graphics. If you're an interior designer, through interiors, and so on and so forth. And your priority is to solve problems, right? So I think my first advice is be obsessed with problems, first and foremost. Not with the look of things, not with, I want this to look this way, I want this to look fine. It's about, for this problem I want to solve, what is the best solution for it? How best can I express it, right? Because when you think about aesthetics generally, I have so many school of thought around aesthetics, right? That I've even, thought people. But I think I'll say it here that aesthetics, there are two perspectives to aesthetics. There's the beauty in the object, and there's the beauty in the eye of people. So when we both see something as being beautiful or as being aesthetically pleasing, that means the beauty is in that thing. But when you see something as beautiful, and I don't see it as beautiful, that means the concept of beauty is not in the object, it's in us. And for design to really work, the beauty needs to be in the object. And what is the beauty? Function. Beauty starts with function. Why do you think that as humans, the two eyes that we have makes us beautiful? Why? Or the mouth. Who says that if you have just one eye here? If I say that we should have one eye here, a lot of you will be like, no, that's so ugly. Who says that? But we've been so obsessed with everything started with function first. And because we're so used to that function, it became beautiful over time. Right? My point is that function first as a designer. People should be obsessed with function. And when you're obsessed with function, then you're able to solve problems. So I think that would be my first advice to designers. And the second would be excellence. I believe that you shouldn't waste your time doing something if you're going to do it shabbily. And you see, excellence is not perfection. I think people also mix it up, right? Very early, when I started design, some people considered me as being a perfectionist. I never thought myself as being a perfectionist, because I think my dad was the one. He's more of a perfectionist, right? My dad would be like, no, like he has. So each time, sees something and tries to correct something, I feel like, no, I've not started. So when I do, maybe in my own little way, when I do it to people, and people are like, this guy, I'm like, you've not seen anything, right? But one thing I've learned over time is perfection is a mirage. You never attain it, because nobody is perfect and nothing can be perfect. But what you should chase is excellence. And excellence means that you are doing it and you are doing it well. Right? So that's second advice to designers. Excellence. The third would be, I think designers should begin to think about what matters to them the most. For a lot of people that I mentor, I ask them 3 questions. I usually ask them that, what matters to you? What will matter to you in the next 10 years? What will matter to you in the next 5 years? And what will matter to you in the next 2 years? Now, I believe that 10-year plan is like a generation, right? I mean, I don't think beyond the 10 years, because I believe that the world can change. Look at how the pandemic happened, and the reality just changed. So I think it's fair to say, okay, think about 10 years. So when I know what I want to do in 10 years, then I can plan what should be the most important thing for me in the next 5 years. And I should know what will be the most important thing for me in the next 2 years. For a lot of people, they are in transit. You studied, you did
physiotherapy.
You did physiotherapy, yeah. In campus, you did After Effects.
Yeah.
Now you're into product design.
Yeah.
You see, After Effects, motion wasn't a destination for you. It was a means to an end. And I think designers should begin to think about that when they are making choices and say, what do I want to be in the next 10 years? And when I know what I want to be in the next 10 years, maybe the design I'm doing right now is part of the journey, not the end for me.
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the thought. So the ability to be able to articulate and say that this is what matters at different part of my life, it will help them make better decisions, even as designers.
Interesting. So like very, very valuable ideas you've shared. I know that those that would get to watch this would really can pick up and then can like transform their journey. Let's talk about building also. Beyond, apart from Nbari Kingdom, you're also building Dropp.
Yes.
And Dropp is described as the operating system for the food industry.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so I would love to know, was there a pinpoint, was there an insight that you had that made you feel Dropp needs to exist?
Yeah. You know, I've always been an explorer. I believe I'm an explorer. Like, I tried new ideas because I believed that, I'm quite young. Like, you know, let me just invest my funds into different things and let me see which one works and which one does it. So, some years ago, I'm not sure you know, I tried. Yes, a restaurant.
I know.
Yeah. And you see, the concept of, Tiantia, the restaurant, was because I wanted to have access to some food, some really, very traditional food. And I'll ask around and there's no place. I'm like, okay, what if I just do this, right? What if instead of me complaining that, okay, there's a problem,
solve that problem.
Let me solve the problem. And then it also occurred to me that I remember that sometimes when we're in Ife, even sometimes when we travel to Ibadan, there are some places that you eat amala. Even in Lagos, you eat amala and you go, no matter how far the place is, you go there to have good amala. Okay. You might even spend more money getting there than the food you get. It means that food is an experience. What if I give people this kind of, native experience? So I started Tiantia. Fantastic. It was great. But it came with a lesson. By the way, Tiantia failed within the first 18 months. It was making good money. It was going fine. But there was a drain. For some people that, run food businesses, they will understand what I'm saying. So it's just like having some, you are getting stuff, but there's like a leak.
Where they're going out from.
It's going. And it opened my mind to the reality in the food space. Right. And not only in the food space, generally businesses, especially in this part of the world, there are some weapons fashioned against you. They are just positioned to make things fail.
Not work.
There are some people that are part of your business that, especially all of those, like food business and all of that, they are steadily stealing from you. And there's really no way you can track that because there's no way to reconcile properly, right? And it becomes a blame game. Oh, I didn't do it. Oh, I did this and all of that. And, so that was what, gave back to the operating system that Dropp is focused on for restaurant right now. Basically, what we're trying to do is we want to make growth easy for food businesses. We want you to do what you know how to do best, making food and giving people the best food experience, while we ensure that you grow. Interesting fact about that is starting a food business is very easy. It's super easy.
Just cook and then
you have some
for customers.
Growing a food business and scaling a food business is super difficult. There's this data that we usually share in the team that 6 out of every 10 food businesses fail within their first year. And the worst part? 8 out of every 10 food businesses fail within their first 5 years.
Interesting.
It means that 80% of food businesses will fail within their first year. So it means that food that you like from some, the chances that it's going to fail is higher than the chances that it's going to succeed. So we thought, what if we just exist to increase the chances of food businesses to succeed? So, Dropp.
Interesting. So you had mentioned how stealing, and then beyond maybe staff stealing, Nigeria can be a tough place to actually build anything.
Yeah.
Infrastructure issues, sourcing issues, and all of that. What are some of the biggest challenges you faced? And what do you think is also uniquely beautiful about building in Africa or building from Nigeria?
Yeah. So I know a lot of people would say that if you are in this part of the world, Nigeria, for example, it's 1-0.
Already.
Life is 1, you are 0. So first you need to equalize before you begin to. In as much as I understand where that is coming from, I am also someone who doesn't like to give excuses for anything. Especially because we've seen people out of Africa, out of Nigeria, for example, that have built something amazing and that are doing super well, right? I believe that every society has its own challenges, right? There's been peculiar challenges for us. So, for example, I think startup generally, I think one of my biggest would be people. Because I think the concept of company is a company of people. That's the concept of building a company. So company is more of people than even what
you're
doing. So the quality of people, the dedication of people, the commitment of people is a big deal. And for me, I have seen, especially in the startup world, I've seen picking your co-founders as a marriage. The process of finding the right person.
Taking your time.
And sometimes it will work, sometimes it won't work. Sometimes you go through like a dating phase. Sometimes, it's always like that. And also to be able to understand that, you are in for a common goal. It is not you versus me. It is the two of us versus this thing. Or the three of us versus this thing. So I'd say one of my biggest challenges building anything will be team, people, getting the right people on board, and all of that. Yeah. And I would say the second, interestingly, wouldn't even be funding. I think the second is the nature of our economy, because in some other advanced countries and economy, they have systems in place that can support businesses, right? For example, power is a big issue. Imagine that you have engineers, you have people that are working from different places in Lagos, even outside of Lagos, and you're on a call and someone is complaining about power. Oh, I don't have light.
No internet.
Or no internet. These are basic amenities, right? These are things that shouldn't even be a struggle. So I would say that's the second, the biggest, right? Yeah, those two. And obviously, funding. But I would say first two, even before funding, yeah.
Yeah, what's uniquely beautiful about building from Nigeria, apart from the challenges?
No, I think what is very unique about building from Nigeria is you are solving you are dealing with real problems.
Mm.
You know, sometimes when I read some comments online about some white people say something, you will know they don't have problems. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, for example, creating something that can carry that cup from that place to this place because of ease. You know, those people, they don't have problem.
They've solved the
Do you get what I mean?
basic ones that we are still trying to.
So when I think, this is one of the ways we think about problems. When I think about problems, we think about problems and solutions in two ways. There's something we call the supplements, and we'll call the painkillers.
Yeah.
A lot of problems we solve from this part of the world is a lot of time painkillers. So there's the pain, but we need to kill the pain.
Mm-hmm.
But there's supplements.
Yeah, you are fine. You just want to look more.
Do you get what I mean? That's body. And I think that's a very interesting thing about solving from this part of the world, right? Mm. Real problems. We have problems in this country, right? For example, you know what? From our airports, everywhere on the streets, there's problem. I was thinking recently, I was talking to one of my co-founders, and we were having conversations about very little problems. For example, do you know that for everywhere you go right now, there's someone somewhere asking you for money? And maybe you're about to enter a restaurant, there's a bouncer asking you for money. And imagine someone coming out and saying, I have a startup. That's it. There are more problems you have. Right.
I think I saw someone also posted and talked about how a lot of times in areas or countries with the highest problem still means that there are big opportunities there. It's not those that can like find the best way to solve them that might just like eventually become successful in those claims.
Yes. I mean, imagine payment. We have a lot of fintechs in this country, right? But there's still a very huge gap when it comes to payments in this part of the world, right? A lot of Nigerians are still not digitally inclined. A lot of the solutions people are putting out there is too digitally inclined. What about the underserved communities? What about the gender-based problems, for example, safety, just a lot of things, that opportunities here. But again, I pray that, in as much as the problems exist and there are opportunities there, I pray that we have an economy that supports the growth of solutions for those problems. Because it can frustrate your...
True. Yeah. You've been doing a lot of interesting stuff. You talked about problem solving, making impact and all of that. But I know that there will be like some tough days or tough moments when you're also trying to figure out what to do. And how you have this mindset that you don't want to just see something as a challenge or you don't want to give excuses, right? A lot of times there are people that whatever challenge they have, that's like a reason why they think they can't move forward. So do you have this core belief or philosophy that keeps you going, that helps you shape your mindset that, okay, I just need to, instead of seeing problems and just feeling handicapped, that I can't do anything, you try to find solution, you try to move ahead, you're facing challenges in business, you're just still trying to push. What keeps you going? Or was that like core belief or philosophy?
Two things, actually. I think the first is, we're having a conversation before we started this session. I believe that solving problems and creating solutions is a fundamental human right. I think what makes us human is the ability to make decisions that will cause civilization. And basically, what I mean by civilization is improving our environment, solving problems, and all of that. And that's, I think, what differentiates us from animals. And I was giving you the example of ants, for example. For, God knows, billions of years, ants have always built that way. There's no concept, no civilization. But when you see a picture, that's if picture actually existed that year, of a billion years ago and now,
Difference.
you will see that no, this is like a different planet. Even 10 years, 20 years ago, right? So I believe that as human, I have the responsibility to be able to, in my own little way, impact my immediate environment or even the larger environment by solving problems. So that keeps me going. I believe it's a responsibility. That's one. Number two is, I also believe that Africans are the best, people to solve their problems. Because I believe that the best problems or the best solutions are solved from a place of culture. They have a great culture fit. For example, School of Architecture actually exposed me to a lot of these things, right? The core of architecture is culture and environment. It means that for every building that you see, the first thing we think about is the culture of people that are going to stay in that building. The second thing is the environment where that building will sit. The environment will influence material selections and all of those things. Oh, this place is going to be rainy. We're not where there's winter and all of those things, so we can use this material and all of that. Or we need to conserve it in interior. We need to, that will influence that. The second part is culture, which is the way of life of people. Which is why, if you think about the old Nigerian houses, kitchens are always separated from the main building.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that, because we see kitchens as a secondary space. Usually, there's like a courtyard system where there will be rooms and there will be like a center space where people come and people will play at night. They will have story time and all of that. Because in Africa, we are communal in nature. We love to connect with our neighbors, with your elder brother's wife. Everybody, that's where we could connect. That's our culture. But you see how we are designing houses now, which is why you can be my neighbor and we won't talk.
Because of how the building is structured.
Particularly our culture. And what is that doing to us? It's, changing our culture. So, but back to what I was saying. So, for every problem, or every solution to work, right, it needs to be culture fit. And Africans are the best to do that because we understand our culture. We understand that if we want to solve for payments, instead of us solving how do we send money through emails, we should be thinking about how do we send money without internet. Because our reality here is different from their own reality in that place.
Internet is not a problem, but
exactly. So that keeps me going in the sense that I'm an African and I understand the peculiarity of our problems here. And a Westerner will not come and solve our problems. And we need to solve our problems ourselves. And I don't need to wait for the next person to do it. I can as well start or be a part of that.
Interesting. Doubling down on how our building has changed and how previously we had what fitted or what really fit our culture is how now these days you now have people exploring open plan with kitchen in the sitting room.
Yeah.
I saw somebody shared online, they were like, people that are doing open plan is for them. Nobody wants to cook maybe beans that is smelling seriously or maybe
or something
that your visitor will enter into the house and then they're already smelling. Or they're like, maybe if you have extractor, that will solve the problem. And I love to know what you think. Now we have there's an increase in buildings where it's just all white, narrow windows. What do you think?
So I think I saw a review somewhere where the person was saying that now what we build are prisons where you have very small windows and all of that. You see, and I'm always very passionate about everything creativity, right? And this is not only about architecture. It cuts across, right? There's a project I'm working on right now. Interestingly, it's an interior design project. I'm a consultant on it. And my perspective to it is just simple, solving problems. And for you to be able to solve problems, you need to understand culture. To your question about what do I think about, I think we are losing our identity. That's one. And I think we are also, so first, there's the identity crisis, right? There's also the fact that we make decisions not because we understand why, but because it's entrenched. And I think this has gone beyond even buildings. It has infiltrated into different fabrics of our lives, which is why a lot of time you would see people give birth right now and they're excited about giving their children a foreign name and not their Nigerian names, right? Which is why some persons will design a particular house and they will have very tall, I'm sure you've seen, I'm sure those kind of buildings are not even in trend right now. They will have very tall, those houses that the roofs are very tall.
Yeah.
The height of the roof alone is like another building. You can literally live inside the roof. Why? People don't understand that. And you see, a lot of these influences are based on culture that are brought into, different places. Let me give you a bit of history to that. And I'm giving you need to pay me for this because this is me teaching you history of architecture a little bit. But I think it's quite interesting, right? First, we used to have traditional buildings. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this is traditional architecture opened my mind. I think that was the first anchor for me for the love of Africa for me when I was in school. Because it opened my mind to the things they didn't tell us that actually existed. So there used to be traditional architecture. When you go to villages, all those mud houses and all of that. What are these? But you know that sometimes when you go to those villages, those places, they carry beyond just being spaces, they carry energy, moments. There's a reason why they seem that way. But let me move away from traditional architecture. Then there came external influences from people that were repatriated slaves that came back into Nigeria. And that was the beginning of the houses we call Face Me, I Slap You. That's then brought about vernacular architecture. And you would see houses right now, even in Ikoyi, that they are made with wood. All those story buildings made with wood and all of that. They came back to Nigeria. And now, people brought another idea of all these houses with very tall roofs. Just were not meant to be our own kind of houses. Why? Because those were meant for snows. So when snow falls,
we can easily
travel. But because we have the culture of just taking anything that they bring to us. When you wear suits and tie, do you know why? And it's corporate. But you are shy to wear your own traditional thing. We don't ask why. But people were doing. Now, what is in trend is, you have very small, thin windows. You have very flat roof. You have this. And that's why there's a lot of water entering the house because of the flat roof that you're doing. The thin window, you don't have good ventilation. Forgetting that the climate here is different and all of that. My point is, as Africans, I think there's a lot of work we need to do in understanding ourselves. Identity crisis, like I started with, identity crisis. We need to know who we are and why we exist. And that way we'll be able to know what to accept and what not to accept.
Thank you so much. I promised that I was going to squeeze a masterclass from today, but then we'll be wrapping up soon. You shared so many insightful stuff. What do you think about Africa's future in tech, maybe in food, and maybe in entrepreneurship? Yeah, tech, food, design, and maybe fashion too. Because I know you mentioned how suits. Sometimes we are just trying to dress like them, but recently now we started to see Ashoke pop up, and then I can see your jacket, they're having the address, the Bobo coming back again. What do you think is our future across this?
I think the new generation of people are finding back their identity. Because if some 5-6 years ago, when you see anybody wearing Adire pants, for example, they're like, okay, you look unique. Was it a picture I saw from GT fashion, where almost everybody had, that kind of pants?
Yes.
I think it's interesting. I think the future is Africa, is Black, right? I think there's a lot of interesting stuff that will come out of Africa. And I think this will be championed by the new generation of people, right? The Gen Zs and the newer generations. I think they are more liberal in thinking. And not only liberal, they are also more aware of who they are. For example, in politics, for example, the NSAS thing that happened is a call to consciousness of
triggered a lot of
exactly that. Okay, this is who we are. Then we need to stand for it, right? I feel like the older generations were very conservative. They were very, all our parents, they were very conservative. Don't let them know.
Let's follow it the way it has always been done. Don't change.
And all of that, right? But I think that's the future. You've seen that in other continents. If you see an Indian, for example, even in the US, this is an Indian. Well, they are not afraid to wear their style. They're not afraid to, do their thing, right? Because they know who they are, and they are very conscious of that, right? So I think when it comes to fashion, when it comes to food, when it comes to tech, I think the future is African, the future is Black, and I think the newer generation of people are doing amazing. I used to follow a guy on Instagram, forgetting his name right now. He's into robotics and all of that, and I see the amazing stuff he's doing, right? So yeah, I think the future is amazing.
Yeah, beautiful. Look forward to that future, and then we'll continue to build stuffs that can take us to that future. So finally, in wrapping up, for someone listening who aspires to do something impactful, whether in design, whether in fashion, whether in engineering, or loves to maybe start businesses, currently maybe 3-4 times founder now, right? But who are still aspiring, or they are still struggling. What would you love to tell them that can, or what do they need to start doing that can help them move from just the aspiration phase or struggling phase to really building stuff, or for them moving from where they are to achieving their goals and dreams?
My sister would say 100 advisors, 1 helper. My point is that if you want to do anything, just do it. Just Nike, that's Nike, right?
Yeah.
Just do it. Start. I think we are always afraid of failure, but we've forgotten that failure, just like success, is a journey, not a destination. I don't think success is a destination. I think success is a part of I think greatness is a destination. So failure is part of the journey. And we know what failure does. It equips you. So my advice is, if you have any idea, if you have anything that you want to do, just do it. Just start it. I was reading the statistics a while ago, and it says that 10% of people have an idea about something. And just 1% of people actually start implementing the idea. Do you get what I mean? Yeah. So it means that first, there's even the issue of idea. People are just comfortable in receiving, consuming, and not thinking about how do I make things better. So first, if you have an idea, congratulations. You are one of the 10%. But that's not enough. If you now take a step further and start it, you are one of the 1% of the 10% that took a step, right? So just do it. Just take. And don't be afraid of failure. A lot of time when you're building anything, the default outcome, a lot of time is failing, but not you being a failure, right? I have a philosophy that when I fail, so I used to tell people that I failed 100 times, such that I know 100 ways not to fail. So because I failed here, so I'm reading the path, and I know that okay, I need to do something different here, not to do this, not to have this outcome again. So yeah.
Wow, interesting. Thank you so much. Just like what we were even sharing before we started, so how I think the last email Steve Jobs wrote to himself, how he was assessing everything around him, maybe the clothes he wore, what he used to make his coffee, somebody made them. So it's important that we start moving from just being consumers to like to start creating, and no matter the challenge, just keep on it. As you shared, we should move from just the 10% that just has the idea to that 1% that like started building. And while you're at it, you learn. A lot of us love like Steph Curry now, strange 3-pointers from different parts of the court, but then he has had several times when he practiced, failed and failed.
Part of it.
Exactly, and now he can like really do it.
Yeah.
Very well. Thank you so much. So
Thank you.
A very insightful and valuable conversation. Also, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. First, I appreciate you inviting me here. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to share a little experience with people. And you are doing amazing work, right?
Thank you.
Amazing work, and I look forward to seeing more. And I'm a big fan. Yeah, I keep supporting.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. More like a full circle moment, just like learning stuff from you while we're in school, and then now also building stuff, also learning from you while building. Yeah, I want to continue to do cool and amazing stuff. I think it's now up to our listeners too. Yeah, irrespective of wherever you are, whatever challenge or whatever background, you are capable of doing amazing exploits. So in the next 1 year, next 2 years, next 3 years, I hope that you'll be able to move from just having the idea, or even if you've already launched already and you're facing a lot of challenges, just keep going. The world needs more of you. Nigeria needs you. Chief Priest has already said, he said Africa or Black is the future, and we have capabilities to do excellent work. Yeah, I'm sure you found this episode insightful, whether you're listening on Spotify or watching YouTube or whatever platform. We look forward to bringing top and amazing people doing cool stuff just to inspire you that you can do amazing exploits from wherever you are. And then we'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye.